أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. So in continuing with our theme of preparing for the Akhirah, as we know there are three things that bring ongoing benefit to us after we die. And it's very important that all of us strive to have as many of those in place as possible, because none of us knows what our state is, but I guarantee that every one of us will be happy that when we're in our grave, we have a continuing flow of good deeds, inshallah. So the one I want to talk about today for us to focus on is knowledge that benefits. So when we teach somebody something that they benefit from, that they continue to use, that they in turn, inshallah, also teach to others, all of that reward comes back to us. And so I want us to think of ourselves from a perspective of teaching people to love the Prophet ﷺ. As we mentioned this morning, that in Jannah we will be with those whom we love. So the more that we increase a real sincere love in our heart for the Messenger of Allah, the more likely we will be that we have in fact a sincere love that will be with him on the Day of Judgment. And in line with that, teaching others about the Prophet ﷺ helps them to love the Prophet, which is a knowledge that benefits, and inshallah they also spread that knowledge. And Allah knows best, simply by teaching people about the Prophet ﷺ, may encourage them to learn about this deen and become Muslim because they see the excellent character. As indeed we saw many people who would meet the Prophet ﷺ and become Muslim because they saw his character, because they saw his manner, and thus were drawn to love him and to love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, when we tell people about the Prophet ﷺ, it's important that we do so in a way that brings about the love of the Prophet. And to do so, we need to be able to tell about him well. And so what I want us to do is to think about a story that you like about the Prophet, and I want you to learn how to tell it well. And I want you to tell it with passion and with meaning and accuracy, and then to also relate it back to yourself so that people see why it's a powerful story. So it's not just some entertainment that was nice to hear. So we talked this morning about the story of the woman who would throw trash on the Prophet and how that exemplified part of the character of who the Prophet was. Now I want to talk about the story of Ta'if, because this is the day that the Prophet said was the most difficult day of his life. The most challenging and difficult day the Prophet ﷺ ever had in his life, and he had many, he said was the day of Ta'if. And so, in brief, it was because this came at a very low point for him. He was a human being. He felt the stress of having to convey this message. We knew and we know that he loved his people, and really what he wanted from them was just that they would come to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for their own benefit. He was getting nothing from them. He wasn't asking them for anything. It was for their own benefit. And his people were turning him away, and the leaders of the Quraysh were turning him away. And as we said earlier, he came from a position where he was loved and respected and honored by everybody in Mecca, and then simply because he came with this message, they were turning away from him. They were causing him hardship. They had boycotted him and his tribe. And because of these boycotts, during this time, his beloved wife Khadija radiallahu anha, our mother, passed away. His uncle Abu Talib, who was supporting him and giving him protection in Mecca, passed away. So he has these tremendous sorrows. And he's feeling a lack of support from anybody. There's just a few of the people that are believers that have accepted the message at this point. And so he goes to Ta'if, hoping to find in Ta'if some support at least to allow him to continue to convey the message. And he goes to Ta'if and he sits down with the leaders of Ta'if and asks if they're willing to accept the message. They refuse. He said, well, you at least let me stay in Ta'if, grant some protection. They refuse. He said, at least then will you not mention to the people of Mecca that I came, because they'll add more insult to their injury. Not only do they, of course, refuse to do that, they gather the children to chase them out of town throwing stones. Now, we need to pause here for a moment to understand why this was such a grievous thing. Because we live in an age today, unfortunately, where rudeness is rampant. In fact, it's so bad that most of us have become numb to the idea of maltreatment and disrespect. We've become numb to it. And I want us to reflect on the idea of how important good adab, good manners was, as we think back to two instances. Number one is the story of Musa and Khidr, which we won't go into detail, but if you remember when Musa went to travel with Khidr, first the boys give them a ride across in their boat, orphan boys. He puts a hole in the boat. Musa is shocked by this. Then as they're going, they find a young boy and Khidr kills him. Musa is even more shocked. So we see the things that Khidr is doing become more and more grievous. And the third thing seems counterintuitive to many of us. They come to a town, they ask for some hospitality. Can somebody put us up? Can somebody feed us? Everybody in the town refuses, and then Khidr goes and does a service for them, building a wall that had fallen. And this is too much for Musa. And I want us to think, subhanAllah, after the previous two things, in our modern day and age, it's like, what? So nobody invited you over? What was the big deal? Nobody said, yeah, come into my house, here's some food. Why would Musa lose his patience over something like that? And it's because we've lost a sensitivity in our hearts. Because this was an age where hospitality was one of the highest things. And to refuse somebody some food, a tiny bit of hospitality, even a complete stranger, was just outrageous. In fact, it was almost a declaration of war. Consider Ibrahim alayhi salam, when the angels were coming to give the news to the people of Lut. They stopped at the home of Ibrahim and his wife in order to do what? To give him the good news. But when Ibrahim saw them coming, they were coming as men. He didn't know they were angels. So he immediately had a lamb slaughtered to prepare some food, because these are guests. What do? Guests are coming, strangers, you feed them. He brings them food, he puts it in front of them. The angels are sitting there. They don't even reach their hand to take any food. What's the response of Ibrahim alayhi salam? He becomes scared. Why? Because if somebody refuses to eat with you, it's practically a declaration of war against you. Because the custom was, even if I was your open enemy, but I came and I broke bread with you and I ate with you, you were safe from my hand. If I were to betray you and stab you in the back, everybody would hate you. Because that was just like, nobody does that. The lowest, filthiest people don't stab you in the back after they eat food with you. So when the people didn't reach to eat any food, he became scared. He thought, oh my gosh, are these people here to cause me harm because they refused to eat my food? This was the degree of seriousness. So when the people of Ta'if not only refused to offer the Prophet any hospitality, on top of that, they send the children to throw stones and chase him out of town. This is the height of disrespect, of rudeness. They could not have done anything more insulting and harmful to the Prophet ﷺ. Literally, if someone came to you and you said Assalamu alaikum, you gave them a big smile, and they spit in your face, and they slap you, and they push you to the ground, and then started insulting you, and had somebody film it and post it on social media, that would not be as bad as what they did to the Prophet ﷺ. And I want us to really think about it for a moment. The most degrading, insulting, hurtful thing someone could do to you. And that's what they were doing, plus some to the Prophet ﷺ. That he comes in goodness and they chase him out of town. This is why it was so hurtful to the Prophet ﷺ, because again, he's only coming with an offer of good for their benefit. And in that moment, as he's bleeding, the angel Jibreel comes to him and says, would you like me to destroy these people? Ta'if is in between a valley, and he said, I can crush the mountains between them, it will destroy them. And again, Why? Of many reasons. I love the Prophet ﷺ because of this, his response in the moment of his tribulation, in the moment of his greatest hardship. His response is, no, leave them be, because maybe their children or their children's children will one day become Muslim. SubhanAllah, the people who had just caused him the most difficult day of his life, and he had had many difficult days before, his first response, when he has a moment to have some revenge, to get back at them, to say they deserve it, look how they treated me. They wouldn't treat their worst enemy like they just treated me. And his response, SubhanAllah, is no, leave them, because maybe their children or their grandchildren may one day become Muslim. This is the kind of person that we need to aspire to be. That we need to think about in these moments when someone does us harm. Perhaps the argument in the parking lot might not have even happened had the people had this response. Their gut response is to think, no, what's best for you? I know you just hurt me. I know you just caused me some harm. But what's best for you? Or maybe some delay, and inshallah, your children might learn from this lesson. Or maybe your grandchildren. But if we can share these kind of stories about the Prophet ﷺ, then the people see what kind of an amazing man he was. And that his dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that his tears that he had and he raised his hands to Allah was, Ya Allah, if you are pleased with me, I'm okay with this tribulation. I'm just worried that perhaps I'm not doing something right. So let me know. His concern over his treatment was only that perhaps he wasn't doing what Allah wanted him to do. His first thought was self-evaluation. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe I haven't stuck to the path I was supposed to stick to. And so this was our beloved messenger. This is what the people need to know about Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. This is the kind of man he was. And if we hear anything about the Prophet sallallahu, that makes us think that, wait a minute, the person you just told me about doesn't sound like this other thing, then you've heard wrong, or you haven't understood that other thing that you've heard about. So this is a message we need to convey about our beloved messenger, so that it becomes a knowledge, inshallah, that benefits, and inshallah becomes something in our scales in the hereafter. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر لكم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.